Touareg was launched in 2002 as VW's first attempt to join the luxury SUV market. This second generation came out in 2010 and was facelifted in October 2014. By the time I recorded this review of the Touareg V6 TDI, it had just been taken off the US market, and VW promised to update the software for all the cars affected by what is now known as Dieselgate. The outcome for VW was still open, but I had fancied a drive in a big diesel for a while, and the Touareg looked like the perfect car for a test in the beginning winter season.
Now, of course I know that you guys will ask me about Dieselgate, and I have to say honestly what VW has done was clearly wrong. But I start to get really annoyed when I see the sad face of VW CEO on every German newspaper that I buy, for the simple reason that I think, yes, what they've done was wrong, but they should just clear up the mess quickly, and not to forget one thing. To remind people of the fact that VW is one of the greatest employers we have in Germany, one of the greatest companies, and that they have been building some of the greatest cars in the world for decades. So yeah, over 20% actually of all the new cars bought in Germany or sold are VWs. They are the market leader. And almost 50% of all the cars bought in Germany are diesel cars. And everybody drives diesel cars here in Germany, me included. So do you want to tell me that we are all wrong? I don't think so. And yeah, it's not the first time actually that a VW Touareg with a TDI engine has been taken off the US market. That has happened to the V10 TDI at least 2 times according to Wikipedia. And that was because the California Air Resources Board, sorry if I have to laugh, wasn't happy with the emissions of the Touareg V10 TDI. And that's actually really funny because those are the same people who forced manufacturers in the early 90s to build EVs, electric vehicles, just so that customers couldn't actually buy them, they had to lease them. And then the pressure from the oil industry was so high against this law that the California Air Resources Board set up that the law was cancelled basically. And the manufacturers had to buy back the cars and then ended up sending them to the junkyard. And I think there was even a big oil company that bought a nice blueprint for a battery concept from GM back then. So yeah, well done California Air Resources Board. VW really should remind people of the fact that they built some great cars. Otherwise they wouldn't be so popular in a country that asks a lot from cars, let me tell you that. So I guess now you guys are ready for some driving impressions, and I have to say I was super impressed. The longer I drove with this car, the more things I found that I actually really did like about it. But the first impression is getting into this interior, and VW just has done an excellent job on this. I mean, from the key, which is a quality item to touch, to the whole interior, there's nothing, absolutely nothing in this car that feels cheap to me. So we have this really nice soft leather, we have these trim and aluminum pieces here, the controls for the radio, the door handles here. Nothing in this car feels cheap, absolutely nothing. And there aren't many cars that I can say that about this here. The only thing that I would compare it to as far as the level of quality and materials go is the SL63 AMG that I tested this year, and that's a very, very expensive car. That costs almost twice as much in the spec that I tested as this car here. Put on the steering wheel heater here, which is nice in the winter. Put on the seat heaters and you are in a cloud of comfort that is just very, very nice and very enjoyable. Yes, I'm a passionate driver. I normally like sporty stuff more, but I can totally understand why so many people buy SUVs and why the average driver likes SUVs so much, you know. And the Touareg actually has been one of the most selling or the most selling luxury SUV here in Germany for quite a while. I do like this redesign. It's not as much in your face as the first generation, and you do notice that driving this car here in Germany. You know, it's for me really the most socially acceptable luxury SUV that you can drive. But that doesn't mean that you compromise in any way as far as comfort, the interior quality, the quality in general, or the way this car drives here goes. For me, this is one of the best SUVs that I've ever driven. So I have the optional air suspension actually in this car, and that allows you to set up different settings here. One off-road setting, but also one when you want to load stuff into the trunk, then the car goes in the lowest setting. And yeah, the suspension just does a great job. It deals with road imperfections perfectly. We had my sister's Doberman Dexter sitting in the back, and normally he's very lively because he's still quite young. But he fell asleep in this car, which should tell you a lot about the comfort of this car. When a lively German Doberman falls asleep in a car, that's very impressive, I have to say. Yeah, you can set up a sport setting here that makes the dampers and the steering a little bit firmer, which is nice, I have to say. Of course, it's nothing really sporty to drive, but there isn't too much body roll, as you can see here in this corner, driving 80 kilometers per hour. And yeah, the steering is decently direct actually. You can't make a steering rack in an SUV like this too aggressively, because you could upset the balance of a car when you use a lot of input. I totally understand that, but VW just does such a great job setting up cars in a way that they are appealing to different drivers. So even being a passionate driver, I have to say I really do like the way this car drives and rides on a winding road. It's confidence inspiring. It's not something that, you know, is intimidating to drive because of its size. That's just great in my opinion. I love that about the Touareg actually. And yeah, the comfort of this air suspension is quite something. Other things, we have of course to talk about this power plant here. And this TDI engine, I have to tell you, for me is one of the best choices, if not the best choice that you can have for a big SUV like this. This car has so much low-end torque and performance under 2,500 RPM that you basically never have to rev it out. It's really astonishing, and driving downhill like I'm doing right now here, this 8-speed automatic has a coasting function, and you can coast for kilometers and kilometers and kilometers, and that means that you actually do end up with a very impressive fuel economy in this car. I've used 9 liters on average, and I didn't care about getting a low consumption here, you know. I put on all the creature comforts, I was driving on the Autobahn, and still with this 100-liter tank, I had a range of well over 1,000 kilometers. Now that's impressive stuff. I don't think there are many American SUVs that can do stuff like that. And yeah, this transmission is buttery smooth. It always seems to have the right gear for you. It seems to think ahead of the things that are happening. And yeah, just works perfectly. Of course, I have a few assistance systems here, lane assist and also blind spot warning. All that stuff ends up with a driving experience that makes you relax as a driver behind the wheel, makes you, you know, drive with a certain mindset that even I, being a passionate driver, can very much enjoy. And I do understand why people like these cars so much. And yeah, I just think we should not forget why VW has been so successful over the last few years. I mean, they really do make the cars that define what the average driver wants, from comfortable to a bit sporty. And I can totally say that about this Touareg too. I enjoy it as a passionate driver. And yeah, that's basically all I want to tell you guys. You might disagree on some of the things that I've said about Dieselgate and this whole stuff, but it's nothing that would hold me back from buying a VW. Absolutely not. This Touareg is possibly the greatest example for that at the moment that I can present you, but I will keep on reviewing VWs here in the future. I'm pretty sure about that, and all the journalists that talk bad stuff about VW right now will eventually crawl back to them once they launch another great car, maybe the next generation GTI, and beg them on their knees to drive those cars, because VW does build great cars, no doubt about that. So very much looking forward to hearing your feedback about this review, about the Touareg, but also some of the other things that I've said. I want to bring you guys a little bit more variety here over the winter season, so I've decided to review a few more all-wheel driven cars, and I'm probably going to review another SUV here soon. So if you're interested in those kind of cars, let me know what you want to see. I will try to make that possible. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this review. Tell me what you think about it. Drive safely here in the winter, and I see you soon. Take care, guys.